Rivri had intended to simply pick up a few items at the market. She had not anticipated the large woman to follow her. When asked where she was going, she answered without anticipating the woman's wish to join. Had she made it seem like an invitation? She was unsure, but that did not stop Croia from tagging along. Croia had intentions of buying new clothing and no clue where she could do so. When Rivri had said she was going to the market, that seemed like a perfect opportunity to learn where said market was. The market district was a sprawling metropolis that moved through several layers of the lower city, starting near the docks and ascending up the mountain. Most merchants proudly display the Merchant's Guild crest and are clearly inflating their prices to these two outsiders. Evangeline By, on the other hand, can be found by the dock. She has a reputation for being a bit of an outsider herself, and so they're certainly guided there more than once. The merchants seem to have all of their calendars written in a way that doesn't match the rest of the city. Odd. Rivri grumbles when Croia seems willing to spend the extra coin she was quoted. Grabbing the woman by the belt, Rivri dragged her along. More so, she was allowed to drag Croia along as the woman looked down confused. What is meaning? I need to purchase items. Not for that price, they're screwing you, she explained, letting go of Croia. We will find someone who does not wish to steal from you for being blue. What does my color have to do with the price? Croia asked, and Rivri groaned again. Just come on. I have had my fair share of upselling for being as I am. If I am wrong, you can go back. Croia followed as Rivri searched the docks for the aforementioned Evangeline By, stepping into her storefront with a nod as a greeting. Is this the storefront of Mrs. By? Evangeline looked up from her current task, sewing a ribbed knee into a small set of pants, and nodded. I am Evangeline By. Welcome to my store. How can I help you? Her children were out, as was her husband, but she always remained close to the storefront so as to avoid any lost sales. Rivri nodded again, stepping inside and walking to the counter. I have a request for items. I am unsure if this establishment is to receive them. She pulled out a piece of paper. I require an amount of fabric to give to it, but would like to request to see lengths of fabric available. Evangeline nodded. I have several options. She offers 3 different bolts for Rivri to ask for a cut from. A simple linen bolt, light and airy but stiff. It breathes, but it doesn't flex. A more complex dual weave. It flexes slightly better, breathes slightly less. It's a stronger fabric and won't fray as bad. And finally, after some deliberation, Evangeline offers her the 3rd bolt. It is a smoky gray in the undyed state, smooth like silk and draped like water, both flexible and strong. The touch of it is as cold as the deepest parts of the sea. Deep silk. Rivri knew she likely couldn't afford the nicer cloth, yet she still questioned how much it would cost to receive an amount of deep silk that could span the chest twice. Evangeline glanced her over in a few mental measures and guessed, about a yard probably, 15 garnet, and by the way it slid through the fingers, both soft and smooth and cool in a way that was completely unnatural, it was probably a steal at that price. Riley wandered into the shop behind the ladies, glancing at what was available. If Summer was going to have what he was looking for, it would be here. He glanced over to see Croia and Rivri there and decided to wait his turn, busied himself looking around at what else there was. Croia was patiently waiting her turn and noticed Riley, smiling and stepping over. You are doing well. We have found a merchant who is fair prices. Rivri nodded at the price and did mental math for herself. I will return when I have this money. For now, I have 3 garnet available to me at the moment in order to purchase the fabric I need. For your prices, which of these may I afford in order to span the chest twice and wrap my hands to the mid-forearm? The chest wrapping is with intent to compress. She further expanded so she could possibly achieve why she came here. Riley grimaced a bit at being noticed, but he should have known better than to think he could walk into the same shop as everyone else and be invisible to them. He closed his eyes and smiled up at Croia. Actually, I didn't know you would be here. I'm just looking for something small, with all of my stuff falling into the sea. She looked over the pieces and then frowned. Compression is possible with all of these, but not necessarily safe. Evangeline pressed her lips together. She leaned forward and whispered softly, I offer binders. Rivri's shoulders tensed slightly, glancing to the large woman and seemingly Riley, who had appeared from nowhere. She turned back to Evangeline. It is not for the same purpose. Do you have one that is longer than traditional? She requested. She wished to explain herself to receive what she needed, but could not. Croia nodded in understanding. It is hard to start new when you were not expecting to. Losing everything is hard, but I am sure we can find you what you need. I am here for clothing. She spoke and motioned to the ripped and tattered dress she wore. She had hoped to get new clothing when she got home, but here she was. Riley looked her over. Honestly, he thought the rips were intentional. Now he learned that they were not. Are you hoping for something already made, or to make it yourself? Evangeline pressed her lips together and then came out from behind the countertop to gently wrap an arm almost around Rivri, but not quite. Not touching, just guiding. I'll bring what I have and have you look at it in the storeroom where you can try it on, she said as she pointed, palm up, thumb tucked, to the storage door where Rivri could stay while she decided on a piece. Rivri's shoulders relaxed at the notion of being allowed to try them on. That made everything so much easier. The relief allowed her to trust this woman more than she likely should with her upbringing, but she needed the kindness for this and followed Eve into the back. Croia shrugged one shoulder, looking down at the dress. I know nothing will be made already befitting me, but that is okay. She had already expected to pay a decent amount to receive the clothing she wished to receive. It took more material to fit her, so she would pay accordingly. But I would like to be wearing pants once more. I did not choose to wear this dress. Once all the options were given to Rivri to try, Eve stepped out and even showed her how to lock the door from the inside. She wasn't going to invade. There was no reason. There was only one way out. She couldn't steal anything Evangeline wouldn't notice, and there was no reason to intrude further. Now what do the two of you need? She smiled. Riley nodded. He didn't quite understand what she meant by not choosing to wear the dress, but he was intrigued. Unfortunately, Eve was there at the moment. Oh, well, you first, Croia, he insisted, taking half a step back. Croia turned her interest to Evangeline and smiled warmly, stepping over with her head ducked to ensure she didn't knock anything. I am needing to have clothing made, a shirt and pants, like I have seen somewhere. I do not know name of style, but it's light and good for sun protection, but not heavy for heat. And the pants I have seen with the holes in the sides to allow air. Does this make sense? Perfect sense, Evangeline nodded curtly, and out of an unseen drawer came a tape measure, so long as it rolled across the floor when she had furled it, and a stool was slid from behind the counter. With a snap, a book floated and began to record with a mage hand made of water holding the quill. She stepped right up to Croia with the tape and smiled pleasantly. Hold your arms out to the side, and I might measure you. Riley was attracted to the mage hand and watched it intently. Croia did as she was instructed, standing at her full height and reaching her arms out. Riley hears some shuffling and swears from the back room. It's in a language he doesn't know. Riley cocked his head to catch slight shuffling. He smiled. He didn't need to understand the words to understand the struggle. He just hoped that she wouldn't need help. Evangeline glanced over her shoulder, but she wouldn't approach the room unless explicitly called, so she just began dictating measurements to the floating hand. Even her eyebrows raised a little at the bust measurement, but she is a consummate professional and does nothing else. Croia knows damn well that she's a large lady. She got it from her mama, after all, and that mama was still taller than Croia stood now. She moved this way and that as Evangeline needed different measurements, but otherwise stayed quiet most of the time. Riley also raised his eyebrows and then nodded. Yes, he believed those numbers. Evangeline finished and stepped down. 4p in linen, 15p in duo weave. You can't afford deep silk. The end came with a small smile. Croia smiled and nodded. Oh, I do not need very fancy, just what will keep me from having heat stroke, she said with a laugh. The duo weave, please, thank you. Slowly a door opened in the back room, and a tuft of white hair peeked around the doorway. Pale gray skin with downturned ears and black eyes as the night before they were gone quickly. Mrs. Bai, I require assistance, Rivri spoke before there were quick steps back into the room. Riley glanced over just as the door opened and saw her, and then turned and pretended not to have. Evangeline nodded. One moment while I help this guest and I will assist you, she said, and went to the desk to write up a transcript of sizes and request styles that she knew the names of, even if Croia did not, and the price. Then her hand went out for the money. Once it was paid, her buy seal was wet with blood-red ink and pressed to the receipt, and put it in her book. A secondary receipt was put down for Croia. It will be available to pick up in a few days. Thank you for your business. Remember the name Buy fondly when you next find yourself in any kind of need. She smiled, and it reached her eyes for the first time in the whole exchange. Then she excused herself to go assist the Shatterkai. Riley watched her leave and smiled. She seems nice. Croia thanked her and nodded her head. I certainly will. She then turned to Riley curiously and nodded. She reminds me of a woman I know. New? No. Who is stern but fair and kind. She simply will not be, what is saying, screwed over. Riley nodded. Those are the best shop owners, aren't they? Fair and direct. If the two of them look at the tags, they will notice that all of them are written in a price that can be understood in low flossy, deep speech, or common, and there is not individual lines. The number is written universally. It simply has different scripts for the word price. After a respectable amount of time, Evangeline exits the room and Rivri leaves. Can I help you? She asked Riley without missing a beat. Riley nodded. Yes, I was looking into squirting a woolen garment or something with porous fibers. He said this straight, with no hesitation, like he was asking someone where they kept the milk. Eve ever so slightly narrowed her eyes. She watched him, evaluated, and then nodded. The necklaces are on that display. Feel free to peruse. The ones on the far right are for your purposes. It is most appreciated, he said with a slight bow, and then headed to where she indicated to get what he was looking for. He picked out something simple, none of the frills or extra decor, and checked the price. 7 onyx for a bit of exceptionally braided, porous fibers on a leather cord. 1 peridot for onyx for one with a golden shiny on it too. You get the feeling she's made a lot and she's tired. Damn. Riley grabbed one with the gold, put the money out of his pocket and held it out to her. This will do the trick, he said, trying not to smile about it. Eve nods and rings him out. He nodded back to her, putting it around his neck and tucking it into his shirt before leaving. He gave a little bit of a wave to Croia on his way out.